Okay, folks, today on Truternology Meets, I'm joined by Paddy Gleason from NXL Pro Team, Seattle Thunder. Welcome to the show, Paddy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Nick.
Hey, thanks for making time, especially on the 4th of July.
Oh, yeah. Ain't a thing. Thank you. Thanks for having me on anytime.
So, let's get stuck in straight away. Obviously, present day, you're playing for Seattle Thunder. What's the backstory that's led you to this point? How did you get into paintball? Who have you played for in the past, etc.?
So my backstory is I'm born and raised from Maui, Hawaii. And I just started playing paintball when I was young. I think I have the typical story of most professional paintball players is that they got invited for a birthday party. And growing up, my mom never let me play with like any guns. And so when my friend invited me to play paintball, I was dying to go. I wanted to basically shoot guns. So
fair enough. I mean, you can't fault that. Shoot guns and not die.
Yeah, exactly. So she let me go, and I played paintball. We were playing with old school Talons, like plastic pump guns.
Oh, wow. And this was in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we were just playing on this like abandoned like highway that we had, and had like this little just had this little gulch there, and we were just playing. Me and my buddy, we were like in the 6th grade, and we were playing against a couple of his brothers that were older in high school. And I remember just shooting one of them in the face, and I was hooked after that. And so I started playing just in like in Maui, we have a lot of kind of rural areas, so we're just playing in we're just playing in pastures and stuff like that with a group of friends, and really got into it. And there was this local, the only field. Legal field, right down the road from me, and we started going there, and there was a team that everybody wanted to play for, or who knew of. If you're in the paintball community, you know that this was the team in the area. And me and 2 of my best friends at the time, still are, played a 3-man. And I mean, I think we were like 6th grade, 7th grade.
Oh, awesome.
And that team had like 3 other teams in the tournament, and we ended up going in and stomping on them and getting first place. So we were like, hey, we got something going here. And eventually that team ended up picking up all 3 of us, and they kind of introduced us into like tournament paintball. And back then it was just a lot of hyperball. So we were just playing a lot. Yeah, we were just playing a lot of hyperball. And I mean, I remember we got the first air ball with like the tubes in it, and it had the cones, like you know, it was a 9-set bunker set, you know.
Yeah, and you were made up, right? That was paradise at the time.
Yeah. So they introduced me to tournament paintball, and it was something that I wanted to do. So I ended up going to like this dynasty camp in 2004, and that was right when I was graduating. So kind of got fueled there to kind of in college still pursue it. And when I was in college, was in Vegas for a year. I played there, and then ended up ultimately in the Northwest, in Oregon. So I lived in Oregon for about 5-6 years after high school, playing, and things just didn't work out then. And now, fast forward, went back home for a few years, and then was playing just recreationally and with the same guys that I grew up with.
Oh, awesome.
Linked up back with them and played some divisional tournaments. And I knew Corey Field from when I was living in Oregon. And when I graduated school 2000 or last year, we were planning on moving back up to the Northwest. So I reached, we were in touch all this time. And when I made that move, he picked me up.
That was it?
And that's that was it. And then, so I spent my last year last year was my first season as pro, and this is my second year. So,
wow, talk to us about that rookie year. How brutal was that? Because I mean, you're obviously physically in a good place, but coming into like professional paintball, it's a mental bombardment as well as a physical bombardment.
Yeah, and I love that challenge. So the mental part of it is something that I've always been in. I got my degree in psychology.
Oh, fantastic.
So and just that psych part of it, mental part of it has been something that I really enjoy, and that challenge is tough, So my first year, last year was a roller coaster. I mean, we went all the way into AC last year, sitting in 20th place. We were sitting in last place, and so obviously you got like getting beat down tournament after tournament. Those negative thoughts end up creeping in. Whether or not you could do this.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you got other people and teams with their opinions, and you just got to block that out and just continue on your grind. And it was a lot of fun, kind of with the group that we had, and that Corey was kind of rebuilding the team at that time.
I mean, I think you've got to be a certain mentality to have that brutal a season, being 20th place, and you come out with the statement, it was a lot of fun. Not a lot of people would put the two together.
I mean, you got to take a step back though too, and just like you were saying earlier, kind of just being a fanboy and just loving the sport. I mean, I'm out here playing pro, like
100%.
I was having fun, playing against guys that I've been watching on the webcast for years, and you're standing across the field from them now. And so, I mean, like, how is that not fun? I mean, yeah, of course we would like to be winning more, but at the same time, it was just an experience. And we went into AC. We ended up winning our first match on our fourth set of AC. So it took us that long to get that one win. And then we went into Chicago, and I mean, we walked away with 7th place.
Yep.
And then in World Cup, we went 2-2 or something, but we basically sealed our fate of bumping out of that 20th place. So I mean, it was just like just the hard work.
Sure.
I mean, the hard work pays off. I mean, we didn't want to be in 20th place, and we weren't gonna settle for that. And so we all just worked hard. All of the rookies that we had at that time, Harrison, James Arnatoff, and then the other veteran guys, just did what we had to do.
I mean, and you probably had one of the freshest rosters in the pro scene last year. There were so many, unknown quantities, and it was just waiting for people to step up and seize that challenge. I mean, players like Harrison, they've done the touring, they've done the, hey, I'll play for you, the kind of the Joe Barrett approach to, I'll play for any team anywhere type of thing. And there were certainly some personalities within the team that nobody knew what they were capable of. And with the greatest respect, they probably didn't know what they were capable of at that time.
Yeah, Corey obviously picked all of us up for a reason. He's a smart guy and saw the potential. And they told us that all year. It's like, you guys have the potential. I think one was just, so for me, James and Harrison was all of our first years playing pro.
Right.
And they were just kept telling us, like, you guys got the potential, you just need to believe. So, even though you're aware that it comes down to the mental game, when you're in the grind of it, it's really hard to kind of be on that outside looking in to see what's happening. I'm really into just like manifesting your goals and stuff like that. And I told James Arntoff, like, we didn't make it this far only to make it this far. So basically I was saying, it's like, we didn't make it all the way up to pro only to finish in last place.
Sure.
We got to just do what we got to do. to get the job done and secure our spot for this season. And, we kept telling ourselves that enough times that we made it our reality.
How brutal a training regime does Thunder have? I mean, it was Philly, a couple of weeks ago, 4th of July weekend coming up, etc. Is there, and the reason I ask this is because you're very vocal on social media when it comes to, the rest side of the equation, the refueling side of, athleticism, let's say. I think the perception for a lot of up and coming players is the pros play every weekend. Some are fortunate enough to drill midweek. Some are fortunate enough to travel to scrimmage against other pro teams. What's the actual reality for Thunder?
So we're kind of we're self-sufficient. So we don't have a bunch of funds to be flying people in for practice all the time and stuff like that. So most of the time we'll have just during the off time, we will practice on our own. So I have me and Matt. We live close to each other up here in the Seattle area. Gomez and Corey. Gomez kind of lives close to the border of Oregon, and then Corey's obviously in Oregon. And then so they will meet up every once in a while. Right. And we'll just go to the local fields here and do drills and stuff like that. And we have Harrison, Greg, James, GJ, and Unger all out of state. Right. So they'll just do their own stuff during the off time, and then the 2 weeks when the layout comes out, that's when we come and fly in and get all together and just have the 2-a-day practices. So I mean, besides that, it's on your own, going to the field, doing drills, and doing that kind of stuff. And for myself, I don't have a field that's open during the week. So it's really just left for the weekend to do the drills. Right. And then so that's why I just do my training, my sport-specific training during the week, just so I can kind of stay on top of my physical game. And then we'll go to the field. I'll try to go to the field once a week and do drills and play with the local guys just to kind of sharpen my sword there. But, I mean, we're kind of swimming upriver against that too, because I wish I could go out multiple times a week and practice my skills, but it's just not the cards that we're dealt, and so you just got to work with it.
Fair enough. What's the relationship like between you guys and Uprising? Because obviously they're probably your closest geographical peers. Is it like a shared kind of, hey guys, we're a bit on an island in terms of commuting to practice, so let's combine forces? How do you guys approach that?
Oh, you would think there would be. We played them a bunch last year. Right. But this year we've only had maybe one practice with them. Okay. And so, yeah, and that was before Vegas. Right. I think it was either before Vegas or before Dallas. We just had one day that we practiced against them. Okay. So we don't see them too often, actually. Yeah.
Who's your favorite?
This season, I should say.
Right. Who would be your favorite team to practice against?
So we've practiced against, and then that's another thing. We don't really travel out too much to go practice other teams. DMG is always a good team that we go down. We'll go down to Sacramento and play against them. Right. Impact will be there.
How far would Sacramento be from you guys? Like, what's the kind of the travel commitment there?
We just catch a plane. I mean, it's like a 2-hour flight.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, see, what's fascinating is for you to go to practice, that's a 2-hour plane ride. Yeah. To the local guys, right? Yeah. And here in Europe, people kind of bitch and whinge, I got to drive an hour for practice.
Oh, okay.
So, completely different mentalities in that sense.
Yeah. For where I'm at right now, it's an hour drive to the local field where we go doing drills. Right. So, Yeah, I mean, I think that comes with the territory of just being a paintball player.
100%.
You're always driving around and searching for the spot to go play at.
100%. Now, you talked about the sports specific training side of what you do. Talk to us about that. Is that the 9 to 5 in essence?
Yeah, basically. So I kind of just engulfed myself with fitness. Since I moved up here, I switched careers. I was doing substance abuse counseling back on Maui.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so that was a fun experience. And that comes from just my past as well.
Right.
And wanting to give back to the community in that way, just with my past experiences and knowledge with that, and goes in with my degree in psychology. But then kind of got burnt out from that. And when me and my wife made our move,
right,
she was in the field as well. And
oh, wow.
When we made our move, we were just kind of burnt out and wanted to switch things up.
I guess it's quite an intense job, emotionally, probably more than others. And if it kind of brings back recollections of the past as well, even more so, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, so like, to go on a tangent, I have my own substance abuse. I'm, in recovery, so I own my own substance abuse recovery story. And
right.
Then working in the field, I've worked in residential, which is 24/7 care,
right.
adult residential, and then I've worked with outpatient adolescents. But
wow.
Having that all within your 24 hours in a day. It was just a lot of substance abuse stuff. So it was just getting a lot. So I wanted to take a step back. And
if you don't mind me asking, I was going to say, if you don't mind me asking, whilst that was going on, whether it was, your personal side of stuff or the actual employment side of stuff, how big an influence was paintballing getting you to a better place?
So to backtrack, when I was telling you about when I was up in Oregon playing, chasing my dream of going pro,
sure.
I was kind of right there, trying to make that one leap over, and that was when I was kind of stuck in my active addiction.
Right.
And so when I moved back, that was a big reason why I moved back, is to kind of get rooted. All my family's there. I needed to get away from the environment that I was in. And then they say, no matter where you change your environment, you're still stuck with you. So I went back home, and I still have the problems. I mean, you just can't switch locations thinking that's going to be okay. And fell into it back at home.
Oh, wow.
I say I relapsed. I wasn't ever really clean when I went back home, but relapsed on my drug of choice that I was using, and fell into it for a little bit longer while I was there back home, and then finally got clean. And then it wasn't until it was shortly after I got clean that my friends that I grew up with they were still playing.
Right.
And they're like, dude, you got to get out. Like, let's go play. And so I ended up going back out and playing, got in touch with that love that I had for the game again. And then, from there, it really helped me kind of stay focused on my recovery, more in the sense that I was just around my friends again. I wasn't isolated and a derelict, and just having that connection with the sport and the brothers that I have in the sport that fitting were the ones that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And so that made it special again. And so that's when I got back into it, and it's played a big role in not so much, I guess, in a roundabout way, keeping me clean, but just giving me a sense of identity again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, do you feel a new sense or a renewed sense of responsibility now? You're a professional athlete. There's kids who have tuned into Go Sports, and watched you play in Philly most recently. You're churning out there on field. You know, you must have players come up to you at the event, players come up to you at practice, you know, players message you, etc., etc. I think one of the big takeaways for me in recent years is how there seems to be a new era of professional players taking a greater responsibility on board for developing this sport.
I completely agree. We all have that vision when we're growing up about what we would do when we get pro.
Sure.
You know, and I think in the long run of my story, if I would have made it back then when I was still doing all of my stuff, I don't know if it would have lasted as long. I was really immature at the time,
right.
You know, and living that party lifestyle. So I don't know if I would have had the tools needed to
right.
make it as a pro. So now with my past experiences and being a pro, I just feel that one, I have an obligation to share my story. That's, you know, why I'd like to come on with these shows and just get that word out. Yeah, and I appreciate it too, just for the simple fact that me sharing my story might help that one person,
100%.
You know, who's stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and just know that there is a way out and there is a brighter light at the end of the tunnel, you know. So that's one. And then two is just like with my fitness and everything like that, fitness and paintball is like two of my loves that I've just tied together. Changing the attitude of that paintball is just a hobby over to that we are athletes out here, you know, and that our sport demands athleticism. And so that's kind of what my path is right now, I guess you could just say.
No, I mean, I truly appreciate the openness and the honesty. And I think I see a lot of kids, and I say kids not just in the age spectrum. I see a lot of new players come into the sport, and it's almost like this is their chance to express themselves. They can have whatever's going on at home, they can have whatever's going on at work, they can have, you know, whatever's going on elsewhere in their life. And it all fades into insignificance to a certain extent. You know, they could be the kid who didn't excel at sports when they were at school, but suddenly put them in an environment where nobody can physically outrun a paintball, and they have an opportunity to excel. You know, they may not be the first to the Snake 50 or whatever, but they have their place. And, you know, they're all, you know, the man in their own right because of different reasons. And that's one of the things that I find so endearing about the sport currently. You know, you can see players who in any other sport wouldn't excel, but they all have their place in paintball, and it's so all-inclusive. I mean, obviously, when you get to the top, like yourself, it's elitist in some respects. You know, being physically capable is a huge asset. I see a lot of content you're starting to put out there in terms of the physical side of the sport. How paintball specific do you go into that?
So it's somewhat of a new thing for me as well. I think kind of just blazing a trail
right.
in this area. So it's semi new. I just call it paintball specific because I think about what applies on the field and the physical demands that is required to not only just have the endurance to make it through a day or the weekend, and then having that edge, right? Giving yourself that edge. So they have other avenues where like BKI does a great job with teaching people drills with your guns and the mental like strategy part of how to play a game. But there's been a lacking of like, okay, so how do I take this back home to my home gym and train my body to be better on the field? So that's kind of where I've been exploring and just kind of getting creative. I mean, that's what I love to do about it. It's like I told you, like fitness and paintball is just two of my favorite passions in life. And then so I've kind of just fused them together, and it gives me a chance to get creative. Okay, well, I need to be able to do this better on the field. How can I take this back to the gym and just train my body so that when I do get back out there, I have the muscular endurance, the conditioning, the strength, the explosive power to execute that.
Yeah, better. I mean, there's a few posts of yours that have stood out in recent weeks. I think there was a great one you did a couple of weeks ago about recovery. And that might have been the week leading into Philly, I think, if memory serves me correctly. Where there were 3 or 4 videos, of this is how you recover from a practice session going into a big event, and make the use of these Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Then the one that really kind of made me sit up and take note was the Nick Laval post that you made the other day. Now, it's rare, in my experience, that pro players openly acknowledge the assistance they've had from other pro players, especially when they're not from the same team. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, this guy helped me with this layout, and we're teammates, because that builds from within. And I completely get that. To actually, sit back and be comfortable to say to somebody outside your team, really appreciate this. That's huge from a pro perspective.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really look up the rule book.
That's the great thing. We just write it as we go.
On the things that you're supposed to share with other pro players, but I just went for it, and
good for you.
I think unity in one. I mean, yeah, we are all on different teams, but I think as one, we're trying to grow the sport.
100%.
And so I do have several pro players on my my training program, and just trying to elevate the game as a whole. I think that's been one of the missions that I'm on, and I really, I don't know.
I guess in a real roundabout way, it's also a great way of forcing you to improve, because the better your opponents get, the better you have to be. So the bar keeps going up, which is phenomenal. Talk to us about the training plans then. If there are people watching this and they go, oh, I'd quite like some of this, I like what I'm hearing, I like where Paddy's coming from. What options are there for players?
Yeah, for sure. So I have either just contact me on Instagram at Paddy Gleason, and then we also have our Off the Leash company that's with me and 2 other friends of mine. They're not affiliated with paintball.
Oh, not at all. They're not, complete outsiders.
No, they're connected with me through my fitness world, with my profession as a professional trainer. And but I've taken Off the Leash, tailored it towards my paintball specific programming. That is remote coaching. So I have an app that I use, and I will send the invite to her, when people are interested. There's 3 memberships that I do with that, and then within that I have it's kind of a 3-phase program, each phase being a month, and I've tailored it and named it kind of to relate to paintball, so that was kind of fun creating that.
Cool.
And then so each phase, the first phase practices trains our body for stabilization, muscular endurance, time under tension, and just kind of builds the foundation for what our body needs to launch us into phases 2 and 3.
Right.
And so that's a month program. And then as you get done with that one, you transition into phase 2, which would be like hypertrophy or building muscle and gaining strength. And so we spend a month doing that.
I need all of those, Paddy.
And then that transfers over into phase 3, where we've taken everything that we've done in phase 1 and 2, and use that muscle that we've gained and everything else to turn it into like explosive power. And then with all of that said, the workouts are tailored towards movements that we do on the field.
Right.
So it all relates and helps us just be a better athlete on the field. So,
right.
and side note, I mean, it's fun. I wanted to make a program that wasn't your typical rep scheme, typical exercises that most people do in the gym. So I do get creative with them. Some are exercises that people have done, some that I created specifically for the program that mimics movements that we do on the field.
Oh, cool.
And the feedback that I've gotten has just been phenomenal, because when I released it, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty new to the game. I was kind of being vulnerable with that, and everybody has their opinions about fitness and stuff like that. So didn't know how people were going to take it, but I feel maybe 100% of the feedback that I've had has all been good. People have really enjoyed it.
Stat.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a bad review that I've gotten so far, across my fingers, but it's just fun. People have gotten a love for working out again with it and have reached goals. I've had one guy lose like 20 pounds on it, and then I've had several guys break through their PRs.
Cool.
And so like they get in touch with working out again, you know, and then finding that motivation to just be better. So it's been a fun experience for sure.
Is there a prerequisite of you need like this equipment, or is it like you don't have to have any equipment, you can just, you know, how does it work?
Having a gym membership would be ideal.
Right.
If they didn't, I do have some athletes on there that just do body weight type of workouts.
Right. Okay.
And so that would be a more personalized programming. So I can do that, you know. I can do personalized programming for each individual.
Sure.
And then we do some type of assessment with them, just so I can kind of see how their body works and what needs special attention. And then I can even tailor it towards, I have my set templates, but if someone is particularly looking into focusing on one thing, then I can go in and edit it so that I call it the layout, so that the layout is tailored towards their specific needs. So that all just comes with the remote coaching.
Fantastic. Yeah. And the best way for people to get in contact with you is via your Instagram?
Yeah, that's the easiest way. It's just, like I said, at Paddy Gleason, and that's with the PADDY.
I will add the relevant links somewhere down here.
Thank you.
For sure. Now let's backtrack to Seattle Thunder. I see you wearing the Push t-shirt, which is awesome. I see you wearing the team cap. Now, you guys are currently getting quite a bit of love from the industry, and rightly so, in the sense of, you know, you've got your team edition Push Unites, you've just got your team edition Adrenaline Shockers.
Ooh. And those Adrenaline Shockers are legit.
They're
fun.
Look insane.
We had fun with them this past event, for sure.
I mean, you guys have shot the Shocker for what, the past 18 months since you joined the team?
Yeah. So Shocker, even when they had the RSX, Thunder was sponsored with them, with those. And then I did think they made the jump for one season back to the Lux, and then we went back to the Shocker last year, the XLS. Right. And then this year we're with Adrenaline, which is still affiliated with Shocker. So
you're familiar with the Shocker platform, the XLS, having shot it for all of last year. How does the Adrenaline compare? What enhancements do you appreciate as a pro player? What makes the difference?
Shout out to Shocker Paintball and Adrenaline. Backtrack, I've shot a Shocker since the RSX when I was playing Divisional. So I've absolutely loved the shocker all the way through. I've shot all the guns that there could be. You know, I've been playing since '99, so I've shot everything. I really love the shocker as a platform, and so the XLS compared to Adrenaline, the milling's different. The anodizing looks great. Yeah. They've coated the bolt with the Lux Ice or Lux 10 coating on the bolt. They changed the back cap. The trigger went to a blade trigger, which I personally like. They changed the ASA on the bottom to be like the Lux with the switch.
That's one of those things that, as a player, you genuinely appreciate that compared to, you know, the stock option. And the XLS is a great gun. For the money is insane when it comes to the performance you get out of that $800 marker.
Oh man, I've had both. At the time, I had the Lux Ice and my XLS, and I mean, just personal preference. I went back to my XLS every time. Right. I just love that. Just the size of it and the weight of it, and being a front player, it's the ideal.
100%.
I love it.
So the Adrenaline shockers, you guys got them on the Thursday of Philly, right?
Yeah.
And it was like James. I saw James posting that he was there, and it was like, "Here you go, guys."
Yeah. So that was fun. And then so Thursday was downpouring too.
Yeah,
I mean, so like, I think, yeah. So I mean, like, we got it, and I was like, sweet. I don't really want to use it. It's so wet out here. And I did though, and and that goes with the XLS too. I mean, I've put that thing through slid right through a puddle, got up, shoot the gun, come off the field, and I've literally dumped water out of my hopper, you know.
Yeah. I mean, living in the Northwest, you don't have the luxury of sunshine all the time, right?
Not all the time.
Yeah.
So
we're much the same here.
They withstand all the elements, man. They're great.
Was there anyone who was like, nah, I'm going to play with my stock one because that's my go-to?
Well, a lot of us actually did. I played 2 matches with my Adrenaline and then 2 matches without. And that was only for the simple fact that I was used to my other gun. Right. I mean, it's kind of hard to go into an event and use a brand new gun.
Yeah, you know? I mean, it's great. It's great for the manufacturer if everything goes well. It's from a player's perspective. You're familiar with the height of your gun, the length of your marker, you know, how it shoots, the feel of it, the sight picture when you're looking through, you know, this is what I'm used to seeing, my loader on this feed neck. Because there's a few subtle differences. Like, you know, you touched on the fact the ASA is different. The feed neck is slightly different. And they all play a part in, you know, that first ball snapshot. If it's not familiar, then the results don't always, you know, transcend.
Yeah. And my Adrenaline shot great. I can't wait to get it back. Like, I didn't want, you know, we had to give it back, and then we're going to get them back. Yeah. Just because they needed to do a few other things to it.
Right.
But I didn't want to give it back. My Adrenaline seriously shot out of the box phenomenal. Right. But I simply just went back to my old gun just because I'm used to it. I've played with it so much. So that was the only reason why I went back to it. But out of the box, the Adrenaline was terrific, man.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
How big a decision was it for you guys to go down that route? I mean, and what I mean by that is, if you were a top 3 pro team, consistently podiuming, you would expect that you would have your own private label marker. You know, all of the Impacts, the Dynasties, the Heats have all had, you know, their moment in the sun. As an up-and-coming pro team, does it put additional pressure on you? Or is it kind of like, a bit of a kind of backstop when those confidence lapses occur of, hey, people believe in us. We should believe in ourselves more. That's where I'm coming from with this.
Actually, to be honest, I haven't really thought of it like that. In all honesty, Corey runs the show.
Right.
And so Corey makes the decisions.
Easy.
And he goes, this is what we're doing.
Real simple. Here's your new gun, Paddy.
Simple, yeah.
Thanks, Corey.
Yeah. Basically, like, right on, dope.
Easy as that. Easy as that. I mean, I think a lot of up and coming players have their preconceived ideas of how pro teams run. Some are very methodical and and refrain from using the word dictatorship, but one guy makes the decisions, and it's this is what we're doing, guys, and everybody who's on board just goes, yeah, no problem at all. Others are far more democratic. What's your relationship? What are the relationships like within Thunder? For those who don't know the team as well as others, who's the joker on the team? Who's the guy who you got to be on your guard all the time?
The relationships within Thunder this year has been great. We have all of our new guys. We all kind of just click mentally there, where we're all just real hungry.
Right.
We're a bunch of just animals out there trying to earn our spot.
I mean, it shows. Watching you guys play, that hunger shows. You never there's never that no care point. Every single point is fight for your life.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of healthy competition within us, because we all either want that starting spot, to know that when we're playing that we have a job to do, and we want to better Thunder as an organization. So we're all mentally there pushing the envelope every practice, coming to the tournaments, ready to grind. As far as like the personalities, oh my God, it's a lot of fun. It's a riot with these guys, man. I mean, I think everybody has their moments of being like the clown, but I mean, Harrison's up there. I mean, that guy's just wilding out all the time. Yeah. I mean, James Arnatoff is hilarious in his own way. Corey's, I mean, we all just take shots at each other. It's just it's a pretty fun family to be a part of, for sure.
I like it.
I feel like for the most part, I'm more of the laid back. Me and GJ coming from Hawaii, we're just more of the laid back, go with the flow type of people.
Do you find that mentality transitions from outside the netting onto the field, or on the field? Is it like a switch has been flicked and you're kind of like, I'm getting this?
Yeah, I think at a certain level you got to flip the switch when you get on the field, to turn into just, I mean, I don't care who it is. I mean, obviously there's going to be people on different tiers and stuff, but my mentality is when you get on that field, and even in practices, or even when you just show up in life, you just really got to have that mindset of, I'm the baddest motherfucker out here, and just not care. You got to let that go. I think that goes with the mentality, because you let those negative thoughts, or you let that fear creep in, and it's like a virus. It can really just inhibit your performance.
Who's the one team that you really relish playing in the NXL? What's the match that you just go, yeah, this is going to be a brawl?
Everyone.
Okay.
I think because coming from the spot that we're at, especially with our history from last year, every team was a grind. I don't think we can take any team lightly. Right. And then we just want to keep stacking those wins. So really, I do not discriminate against any of those teams. Like, every team that we go out there, we're ready for battle. I mean, I don't know if there is particularly one team that I feel like we have that grudge match against. I feel like every team we have a grudge match.
Yeah, I mean, I think That's interesting that you phrase it like that, because there's grudge matches that are bad blood, and then there's matches that you can just share a sheer appreciation of competency at the sport. You know, there's standout matches. Aftermath, first event of the year, just came out swinging. Next two events, you know, everyone else seems to have got a better handle on what they're capable of, how to stop them doing what they want to do. And now, you know, it's almost like next move is Aftermaths. How do they rejig and come back stronger? Seattle Thunder, I feel you're in that place where most teams haven't got a real comfortable handle on how you play, because you're not reliant on one or two bodies. There's actually 5 bodies producing across the field. And, you know, that shift of power and unpredictability and control, in you know, albeit in such a kind of a cauldron of talent, is actually playing into your favor currently. And that's what makes you guys so exciting to watch. I mean, European viewers are more familiar with, you know, Harrison doing crazy things because we've seen it over here, you know, and in Malaysia and in Australia, etc. I mean, Brandon Unger's making a great name for himself this season, especially, you know, coming off the back of a 10-man classic win as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, that must have been not fish in a barrel, but just like being at the fun fair of, oh, I've shot 5, I can go and get a 6th. This is great. You know? And it's just, you can almost see the grins underneath the masks when you guys are playing. And I mean, I think you have a real healthy mix of newer emerging talent and the more experienced, you know, heads like Corey and Map. And correct me if I'm wrong, both Corey and Map weren't there in Philly?
Yeah. We had our 2 I mean, we had Gomez.
Right.
But Corey and Map were gone.
Right.
For Philly. So that was a huge milestone for us. Just I mean, to Gomez be able to perform.
Like, I got to deal with these guys for a weekend.
Yeah, and so that was just a milestone to kind of stay consistent with what we've been doing this season without our 2 veteran guys.
Yeah.
So 1, confidence boost. 2, prove to ourselves that we are still doing it without our 2 guys. I mean, obviously we want them back. Like, don't take too long of a break. Come on back. But it was a good experience. I think with the guys now too, like, kind of to touch on what you're saying, like, we have so many weapons, like, to give different looks, kind of what you're saying. We have so many weapons and hungry for it, and we're all kind of just elevating at the same line here. With you guys being familiar with Harrison, and then Unger obviously performing awesome. We're all, and I mean, GJ, I mean, everybody on the roster, we're ready to go. So I think what would be ideal is for this squad to stay together, you know, next season, and if not, just stay together for a couple more seasons. And I mean, we're going to be knocking on the doorstep right there. I have no doubt. It's been passed around. It like takes 2 years to rebuild a squad. We're in that second year. You know, we're at that. We're getting noticed, and
most definitely.
I think the future is real bright if this squad stays together. So it's really exciting times.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. Do you guys feel as though you're missing anything at the minute, player-wise, specifically? Or do you think you've got everything covered and it's just a matter of maturity?
I think we got things covered. It's just that experience. Because even this season, Unger's performing well, GJ's performing good, and Greg is performing good.
Right.
Those guys, they're all their first year playing pro as well. And then the 3, Harrison, me, and James, this is only our second year. So that's 6 guys on our team that are still fairly fresh.
Oh, completely fresh, really, right? Because the reality is, even if you played every point of last season as pro is nothing in comparison.
Right. In the bigger picture, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think with the addition of GJ, Greg, and then Gomez coming back, what we were missing last year was a middle presence.
Right.
And then so those guys were what we needed. And so that's why we picked them up for sure. And then with me and Harrison on the D side and James and Unger on the snake side, it's just about working together more. We do have our own little things that we are working on as a squad. And so that is just the cohesiveness of the team pushing forward. So I don't really think we need to add anything. No.
I mean, Corey has one hell of a talent program going on. He can
He's
bring
a smart man.
In. He seems to be. He recently opened his own field in the past 12 months.
So Diamond Hill Paintball, it's been around for a while. They had to relocate.
Right, got it.
Yeah. So that's back up in full swing, and he stays busy with that. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, from the outside looking in, it seems that in the past 18 months, he's gone through a transition of being completely kind of re-infatuated with paintball. You know, partially it must be the team, bringing on new guys, seeing them learn, or being able to help them learn primarily, seeing them take that on board and develop as players and, you know, as young adults for many of them. But also there must be the enjoyment of having a field, seeing the sport grow in his locality, and just that's almost a vague security of there's going to be this for future generations, which is super cool and super humbling at the same time. I think he's one of the personalities where I can't think of a single instance where I've heard somebody say something negative about him. Everything is complimentary or positive in the sense of growing the sport. The number of times I see him post on tech threads about shockers, for example, you know, and most pros will never comment on a tech thread ever. There'll just be, at the very most, it's like, you should contact the manufacturer, here's the details. Or you should contact this tech, here's the details. But I actively see him clocking in week after week when he doesn't have to, but he wants to. And I think that ethos of, we talked about it earlier, the new wave of responsibility within the pro ranks is refreshing, to say the least. Yeah. Amongst your peers, who is the player that you have the most respect for, or players, within the league?
Within the league, so branching out?
Yeah.
Of Thunder?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of fitting. Corey and Mapp has always been on my books, just from being in the Northwest.
Right.
And Mikey Lou, who he comes around.
Does Mikey still play?
He plays with us for a little bit. I shoot him up a lot, so that's pretty fun.
Because I remember Mikey from when I worked for Eclipse, and the Naughty Dogs were playing with E-Blades on, you know, oracles and stuff like that. And Mikey was always that perfectionist of it has to be like this.
Mikey's awesome to have around. He's
a trooper.
He gives me a lot of good information at practices and stuff like that. But so, like, with respect, being from the Northwest, those three guys from the old Dogs, I always looked up to. So, I mean, it was only fitting that coming on and joining the squad was always like a pinch me kind of moment. Players right now in the game, got to tip my hat to Colt Roberts. And then congratulations on the X Factor win.
Absolutely.
Well deserved there. But Colt Roberts has always been big in my books. Alex Goldman, you know, he's a stud.
Alex Goldman's an interesting one because his physical presence sometimes overshadows his technical ability. In that, you know, he's probably one of the most athletic / dynamic players in the game. And it's easy to forget how competent he is technically.
Yeah, and I mean, he's just a beast. I respect the beast, and Chad George, I've always watched him, just throwing people, and so respect there. I mean,
and they've all served their time as well. These are decade plus veterans of professional paintball.
Yeah, and so these are guys that I've watched on the webcast, growing up. So like coming and playing against them now, or like even talking story with them outside of the matches. I mean, like you were saying, like, do we have any grudge teams? Like, and I was saying everybody that I feel that we step on the field is a grudge match, but like off the field, it's all of that is off, and we, hanging out with these guys is pretty fun.
Yeah. Is there a social scene outside the netting that kind of meshes teams, or do you find that socially you stick to the Thunder crowd?
Not any, like, it's not, I don't think there's anything that we go like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with these guys after this. I mean, we usually stick together as a Thunder squad, but I mean, you're at the event, you see people, and stop in your tracks and talk story with them for a little bit, or see them in the stands and hang out with them for a bit, and then reaching out through social media, talking to the guys through the in-between events and stuff like that. And so
thinking about social media, how important is it, or are there any requirements as a professional player for how you conduct yourself on social media, or is it like an unwritten rule book that you have to conform to?
I think as far as social media and representing being a professional paintball player, I think there is a responsibility. I think everybody has their own personalities. I think with coming up under the wing of Corey is a good example of that, and that we represent Thunder. We represent the paintball community. There are kids watching us and looking up to us. So I think there is a certain level of respect and integrity that you do got to present via social media. And then just in the efforts of growing the sport, you got to give it in a positive light. We're an underdog sport and want people to be excited about it. So you do have different personalities coming in and having, not mentioning any names, but you do have people that are wilding out and have that type of attitude. But for me and myself, take a different approach. And that's kind of what I do with my athletic stuff, only because it's fun for me, that's all. I enjoy doing it. I have fun doing it. And I think there's a fine line with getting obsessed with doing it.
Sure.
And then just doing it for the betterment of the sport.
Who's on your radar as an up-and-comer who's going to make it big in the next 2-3 years? What are the names that, coming out of the Northwest scene that we've not yet heard, we've not seen on the webcast, but, you feel they've got the potential and, the attitude and the drive to actually make it? Is there anyone ticking those boxes?
I feel like there's a lot of talent up here in the Northwest. There's always been talent up in the Northwest. And just not getting that exposure just because we aren't one of the main hubs.
Sure.
But in particularly, anyone that's playing at like the NXL continuously. I
mean, sometimes people are very caught up in their personal agenda, and they genuinely don't really appreciate the talent that's there staring them in the face, and that's perfectly acceptable. Other times, pro players will also coach, they'll also do clinics, and they'll be like, hey, that kid really stood out. So I'm just I guess you're at the appropriate stage where your time is most dedicated to bettering how you contribute to Thunder, which is, fantastic. To spin it around, who would you say is the most underrated player on the pro scene currently?
Yeah, I think a lot of our guys are underrated.
I would agree. I would agree. It's a challenge to pick the most underrated, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To be honest, myself, no, James, GJ, Greg. I don't really, to be honest, not really focused on other players. You know,
I like that. I like the commitment.
It's just,
yeah. What's next for Thunder? Are we going to see you guys hit Europe at all?
Corey would like to. Not this season, but he's talked about trying to make it over there maybe next season. Europe would be nice. I don't know. I've talked to my wife about this, and because she wants to travel too, and
there we go.
I have real bad anxiety of thinking of being on a plane for that.
Hey, the trip from Hawaii to the States is no picnic, right?
Yeah, it's like 5 hours.
Oh,
5.5 hours.
There you go.
Yeah,
just do a little 5 hours.
It's like a flight. It's like a flight to the East Coast, so that's not that bad. But when you start getting up into the double digits, you know, 10, 12.
Just stop at the East Coast. Man. Have a little stretch of the legs, do some foam rolling, jump on another plane, you'll be fine.
I guess you're right. I hate sitting in an airplane, man.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of, for some it is containment. For others it's a chance to just break out of the bubble and just de-stress. So it is what it is. Thank you so much for your time today, Paddy.
I appreciate it.
Any final shout outs you want to give, either personally, from the team?
Just all our sponsors, you know, shout out to all our sponsors. Shout out to my friends and family. Shout out to the boys on Thunder. And thank you, Nick, for having me. It's been fun.
Always a pleasure. Appreciate your time.